In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this puffball heart wreath. I definitely suggest lying down something over the table just because you're going to be working with a lot of glue and it's going to get very messy. The foam hearts that I am using, I got a 4-pack off of Amazon and they were about $14. And when I went to my local Joann's or Michael's, they didn't have any there, so that's why I had to use Amazon. I got this pink fabric at Michael's. This is just gonna be the background or the base for the styrofoam heart. I'm cutting up the fabric into long rectangle shapes just because it was a lot easier to wrap around the heart when it's in this type of shape. I tried lying down the heart on top of the fabric and tracing the heart out and then try cutting it and then gluing it around the heart, but this way just came out really awful. I used 2 types of glue for gluing down the pink fabric and then also the puff balls. I used this foam glue and then I used this liquid stitch. I found it a lot easier just to use a paintbrush and paint on the glue instead of squeezing glue out of the tube. You just want to try your best getting the glue on one side of the heart, just in case the glue starts to seep through the fabric. So this type of glue doesn't dry immediately, so I am just using fabric pins just to hold down the fabric in place while I am gluing down all the other pieces of fabric. When it's time to add on all the other pieces to the heart, the raw edge you want to fold back a little bit just so it can look more seamless on the heart. Even though the puff balls are gonna cover it, this is just something I did because I didn't want little pieces of the pink fabric fraying and like getting everywhere. So that's why every time I added down a new square, I folded back one of the little raw edges. I went back and forth between the liquid stitch and the foam glue. And you can see right here the foam glue kind of seep through the fabric. And I also notice if you're using a lot of foam glue in one area, it builds up a lot and it gets very hard and thick. But I plan on covering this up, but I thought I would just mention this. So when you're gluing down the fabric, you just want to make sure you're pulling it taut in the back, just so there aren't any like lumps or air bubbles in the front of the heart. Once you have all the pink fabric wrapped around the heart pretty well, this is when I'm going to go in with this purple felt fabric and I'm just tracing around the heart. And then this is basically just going to cover up all of the little folds in the back and any other glue that might be sticking out. This is just because I want it to look very professional and very seamless. You don't have to do this step, but this is just what I did. And if you are going to do this step, remember to glue down the ribbon as you're gluing down the little felt background. And I got my puff balls off of Amazon and they were around $15 and it came in a 200 piece and I decided to go in with the 1-inch size. To glue down the puff balls, I am starting with the foam glue. This worked okay. It definitely wasn't the best, so I definitely recommend using the liquid stitch glue. So I just went back and forth between these 2 types of glue, seeing what I liked better, just because I never made one of these wreath hearts before. And I just want to test out what glues would work better, and I definitely recommend using the liquid stitch. I am also doing my best making sure that when I glue down the puff balls, they are pretty close to each other. Just because I've noticed in other stores like TJ Maxx or whatever that sell these type of wreaths, there's a lot of space in between the puff balls and then you can also see the hot glue that they use. I didn't like the way they looked because you could kind of see the clumps of hot glue and it just looked very crappy looking. Because I wanted this heart wreath to look very full and fluffy, even on the sides of the heart, this is what I had to do to keep them in place while they are being glued. So I'm taking the puff ball and just dunking it in some glue that I poured out and just sticking it there, and then with my hand I am just holding it down. So this glue did dry a little fast. It wasn't like a hot glue gun, so I was able to hold down the puff balls with my hands for like 2 to 4 minutes and then I was able to let it go, and it was tacky enough to where the puff ball stayed. So now that all the glue is dried on the heart wreath, I am just going back in with the glue gun and just trying to fill up all the little holes. So I'm just gonna be very careful with the amount of glue that I'm using, because when I push down the puffball, I don't want the hot glue to push out and be visible. As I am putting down the puffballs, I am just holding them in place for a few seconds, waiting for the hot glue to dry. I'm happy I went back in with the hot glue gun just to fill in the little holes, and it helped make the heart wreath look a lot puffier. And because I took my time to make sure all the puffballs were touching, you can't even see the pink fabric. So you can choose to skip that step, but I also wonder if the pink fabric is a better texture for the puffballs to stick onto, or if you can get away with just covering the puffballs onto the styrofoam itself.